Fox News chief international correspondent Steve Harrigan has covered the war in Ukraine. He has spent more than a decade as a Moscow correspondent. He speaks Russian, so he has a unique insight here. He joins us now. Steve, good afternoon. Your thoughts on this day?
Brett, this is just riveting. And when the two of you talk about hope, I think it's hope really around the world. So much hope and a lot of pageantry. But, you know, I don't want to be a buzzkill, but I can't get away from who President Trump is dealing with and who President Trump really got to the table, and that's Vladimir Putin. I remember the first time coming out of Ukraine after the war had started. It's a long drive to get out, and you have to go out through Poland, and there's a lot of shoving and pushing in the airport. And behind me, you know, I was wondering who was shoving. It was children who had lost limbs in the war, and they were getting to the front of the line to get on the flight. You know, and I felt bad about being irritated. And even covering the war inside Ukraine, it wasn't like other wars. There wasn't a front line and a back line because the Russian side would hit anywhere. There was targeting of civilians. So handshakes, nice ties, red carpets. But one of these guys is killing civilians. And I think we have to keep that in mind here. One of these guys doesn't believe Ukraine is a country. And if you're going to ask one question to Putin, ask him, is Ukraine a country? And do you think somehow you're going to be able to take over and rule 40 million people who don't want you to?
You make great points, Steve. And I remember you, who are such a seasoned war correspondent, saying, I have never seen anything like what is happening in Ukraine. And I'm glad that you bring that up today as we watch the effort to bring some sort of peace to those people and hopefully let them find their way home. But there are so many barriers to that, as you point out. Tell us what your sense is of whether or not Russia is winning at this point, because we hear they've made some strides recently, but General Jack Keane said don't overestimate that.
Sure. I think the general is absolutely right. You can't talk about a force that is losing 1,000 people a day, 1,000 casualties, dead and wounded every day for the past 3 years, 1 million casualties in Russia. You can't call that a victory. But there have been very slow incremental gains on the ground, taking territory. And perhaps that's given Putin some confidence that he can keep going. But Martha, you know, you talked about this. To call this any kind of a victory is crazy. But Russia has learned over 3 years of war. We saw the blatant incompetence at the start of the war. Russian tanks being blown up, running out of fuel. They have learned. They are doing better on the battlefield. They have better tactics. They're not just getting recruits out of jails anymore. They're giving them $30,000 to sign up. So they've learned. They're making their own drones. They're doing things differently. If you get blown up, your family might get $200,000, which is a lot of money in some parts of Russia. So Russia has learned. Russia is making some success on the battlefield. They haven't taken a major city. And how long can you lose 1,000 soldiers a day? 5 Vietnams in Russia in the past 3 years. You don't see a lot of protests on the streets. It's because people are afraid. This is a totalitarian government that controls the media. People are living in fear. And it's a one-man show. This is a major war based on one man's idea, that Ukraine is not a country, that it's part of Russia. One man has to be stopped. One man has to be brought to the table and have his options limited.
That's interesting, and you know, I hear it from the Ukrainians a lot, Steve, and that is, you know, they see this image of smiling and handshakes and slapping backs, and they look at someone who they describe and is accurately a war criminal in the eyes of the International Criminal Court, the ICC. The U.S. obviously doesn't adhere to that overall, but one of the reasons they can't go to Rome is because Vladimir Putin could get arrested there at the headquarters of the ICC. You know, you talk about succeeding on the battlefield. They're having incremental success, but you were there at the beginning when they got stuck, essentially. Whole columns of tanks really taken out by javelins provided by the U.S., yet they are having incremental success in some places.
They are. They've changed their tactics. They're on a war footing. Their economy is on a war footing. They're doing things differently now, so they are making some gains. And also, keep in mind, you know, Russia has 140 million people. They outnumber Ukraine on the battlefield 4-1. So they do have some real advantages in this fight.
Steve, one of the things that I just want to also touch on here, and I know you've talked about this, these reports of 20,000 children who have been taken into Ukraine. This is one of the issues that is expected to potentially come up today. In a larger sense, what does Putin want? What is he from this whole summit? What is he willing to potentially give?
Yeah, it's certainly one of the most emotional and thorniest questions, and really one of the strangest as well, to try and take people away. This whole idea, if you ask Putin if Ukraine is a country, he'll probably sit down and tell you for 2 hours why it's not, why it's all part of Mother Russia. But, props to President Trump for getting him to the table. And earlier, Brett, you mentioned him talking to Lukashenko, the dictator of Belarus, on the phone. Over and over again, you hear from the Trump administration, reality. We're dealing with the reality on the ground. They're dealing with the dictator in Belarus. They're dealing with Putin, who bombs civilians. They're bringing him to the table to try and save lives. That's the goal here. He's dealing with the reality on the ground to try and make something happen.
Yeah, and I think President Trump has always said, if you want to negotiate with someone, you have to sort of, you got to create a little bit of a warm atmosphere to at least begin the conversation. And that's what we saw on the tarmac. But, Steve, thank you for reminding us of all of the underbelly of how brutal this war has been. But we are at the table right now, and we hope that they get somewhere. Thank you so much, Steve Harrigan.
Thank you.
Yeah, Steve, thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.